Hello, everyone, and welcome, Meteorologist Greg Soulje. Welcome back with us here today.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Nice to be with you on a sun-filled, dry day. Most importantly, dry day across the Midwest, the plains, and especially for our friends in livestock operations and producers in the southern Midwest and all points southward, still draining out of that 10 to 15-inch rain that they experienced in the first few days of the month of April in that general direction.
Oh my gosh, that flooding's been just really something to see and hate to be part of that. And I think there's some more rain on the way if I'm
Yeah,
looking at the
more.
forecast correctly. You're going to
Yes,
fill us
exactly. In
in,
the
I'm
shorter,
sure.
yeah, in the shorter term, but generally speaking, it's a little more favorable. But like we've been talking about here, it's drier periods, drier spells, not completely dry. So I think this is especially in the eastern and southern Corn Belt areas will be something we're going to have to kind of deal with from time to time is these recurrent, repeating outbreaks of rain. But that's down the line here the next over a couple of 3 or 4 weeks.
All right, well, your slides are up. Go ahead and take it away.
All right, here we go. And of course, it is flooding and cold, by the way. They sent readings into the low to mid 20s, all the way down into parts of southern Illinois, some of those Ohio and Wabash and White River areas of the southern Midwest as well. So, cold morning as they're trying to drain those streams and rivers. Matter of fact, it's the Ohio at Cincinnati that crested at about almost 9 feet above flood stage. They haven't seen that since 1997. And the freezes, as we had talked about across the Midwest, and some of those ornamental trees, flowering trees, maybe in the southern Midwest and points southward. By the way, they'll get into that over the southeastern states with upper 20s and low 30s tomorrow morning. I have to keep an eye on the potential harm there. So cold and basically sun-filled, and the water kind of coming on down through the Wabash and the White River and Emerald River and into the Ohio River and all points southward here for the foreseeable future. But at least going forward this afternoon and evening time, it's high pressure, a couple of snowflakes downwind of the Great Lakes region, and a pretty uneventful weather pattern. We do see kind of an increasing south wind component, and that dividing line, that red hatched area, that boundary, that warm front over the Great Plains marks readings that are a little more late winter, early springish into the western Corn Belt and points eastward versus a spell of summer heat into the western plains. I think they're going to be up around 80 degrees today in western Kansas, and there's some 90 and 100-degree weather building across the southwest and southern California. We've been talking about that warm to hot ridge early on this year, already materializing in that particular part of the country. And again, we'll be a dominant player, we think, west of the Mississippi, the big D word, as we get deeper on into spring and summertime, and maybe too much of a good thing weather-wise, rainfall-wise in the eastern areas. In any event, here is a kind of a general synopsis of how flooding is going on. It's areas south of Champaign towards the I-70 corridor. The Wabash is in flood right now. Same with the White River. I think at Columbus, Indiana, the White River yesterday, if I have this right, was almost 8.5 feet above flood stage. So that's an issue going on, not only in through northern, at least southern Indiana, southern parts of southeast Missouri, northern Kentucky, and everything dribbling southward into the lower Mississippi Valley. I'm sure there'll be some need for replanting or re-tillage of work or whatever you have in mind in those southern areas of the Corn Belt and lower Mississippi Valley moving forward. Meanwhile, I wish they could get some rain in some of these plain states areas, again, up near 80 as far north as western Kansas today. And despite some degree of rainfall, it's been really a Jekyll and Hyde setup. If you were to draw a line from Wichita to Oklahoma City, been too much of it, and things are in good shape from a soil moisture standpoint. West of there, and those heading winter wheat fields of Kansas, Oklahoma Panhandle, northwestern Texas, not so good. Matter of fact, Texas leading the nation. 40% of its winter wheat is in the poor and very poor category. Then South Dakota and Nebraska, generally in the range of about 38 to 33%, respectively. There's the drop monitor from late last week. And I think we'll see marked improvement across central Illinois, parts of Indiana, maybe Michigan, maybe parts of Missouri as well. So some of those southern and eastern through southern Corn Belt locales, but worsening over the high plains areas, and not much going on to improve the situation in Southern California, West Texas, the southwestern states. I think there's going to be an increasing fire risk as well down there as we get deeper on into late spring and summer. The monsoon set up, those dry base thunderstorms, you spark off lightning and that dry vegetation, these dry-based thunderstorms, if you will, and you're often running with fires. So I think that's going to be something in the longer range we'll keep an eye out for later this spring and summer over there. Meanwhile, here is the flooding, of which, by the way, upper 20s to low 30s all the way down into portions of Kentucky and sections of western Tennessee this morning. The flooding is the big story through Arkansas, western Kentucky. As mentioned, some of those streams and rivers are running 15 feet above flood stage in northeastern Arkansas, some of the highest levels they've seen there in about 8 years. So we'll see what transpires with not a completely dry, but a drier setup. But again, issues in some of those pasture lands and some of those row crop areas in the far southern Corn Belt and Mississippi Valley, northern Mississippi Valley Delta region, and points east and west to being from there. Western states, pretty quiet weather pattern, soil moisture, runoff prospects, snow in the mountains, all that stuff is in good order for the Pacific Northwest and Northern Rockies. Different story. If you put some of that 90 to 100 degree heat in the southwestern part of the country and you've had maybe 25, 30% or so of usual snowpack this wintertime season, you're going to tap into that already. And so runoff prospects are kind of diminishing already the need for some of that water in the irrigated areas with time in through Arizona and Southern California. There is the Tuesday night weather map and chart. High pressure, another cold night, this time for the far eastern areas of the Corn Belt, Ohio Valley, down south into sections of the mid-Atlantic region, maybe some frost as far south as Birmingham and Atlanta, Georgia by tomorrow morning. A couple of showers and through Florida. You do see a weather system out there towards the Black Hills beginning to organize. And by tomorrow morning, there's some rain back in for parts of the Midwest, parts of Illinois. Wouldn't be surprised at my place and Sarah's place and anything else through the southern Great Lakes region. Get some, maybe a couple of early morning snowflakes before transitioning over to rain. And that rain area will be expanding over the rest of the eastern Corn Belt like this by evening time tomorrow. And there's going to be enough to kind of keep things muddy, soft, uncomfortable, and any mention of rain kind of a little more demoralizing than anything in some of those southern areas of the Corn Belt and points on southward. Then by Thursday, that weather system moves off. Still a couple of showers over parts of the Corn Belt locales, some snow into the northern Great Lakes region, but back in the plains and the Rockies and some of the big livestock areas. And a lot of those livestock areas are in the worst drought areas, by the way. Dry weather takes hold with high pressure and control. Any severe weather is pretty much next to nil. This is just a very minimal marginal chance in those green areas for the Dakotas down into the Corn Belt areas on Wednesday. Thursday shifts into the southeastern states. So it's a much different setup on this particular weather system, not this widespread severe stuff that we've had here the past several weeks across the Midwest. So for now, the weather pattern is quieting down, not long lasting. It will be changing here in the next 2.5 weeks or so. But there's the moisture amounts, 1/4 to 1/2, maybe some 3/4 inch totals. Unfortunately, they're lined up in the Ohio River Valley of Kentucky and Indiana, down through the Tennessee Valley as well. But apart from that, western Corn Belt remains dry, spotty moisture through the northern plains and upper Midwest systems into the Pacific Northwest and down through Florida. They can take every drop of rain they can down there in the Sunshine State. They're in the worst of a drought area too, based on last week's drought monitor. So freezes into parts of the southern Appalachians, maybe northern Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia tomorrow morning. Tennessee Valley, they'll be in the upper 20s and low 30s there. Lots of flowering stuff there. So a little late for early April in that particular part of the country. 90-degree weather begins to pop up over the central plains. Remember, dry grounds beget a dry weather pattern and helps to build heat. You can heat up those grounds pretty quickly. So 90-degree weather in the high plains, 100 in the desert southwest, and that hot ridge is just going to teeter-totter back and forth. Some weeks into the plains and southwestern and western Corn Belt, other weeks retrogressing back along the divide, and that's the way we generate systems to come through the northern and eastern Corn Belt, hence more rain there. Lesser rain chances and opportunities in the western Corn Belt. Better opportunities for some field work to start western Corn Belt and points westward into the plains. Not so good with time in eastern areas. So the Mississippi appearing to be the dividing line. So there's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday into early next week upper charts. Main thing is the weather system into the eastern states, kind of slowing things up. Probably more rain and snow into the weekend into the northeast, into New England. And that warm ridge, a little piece of it, will break off into the plains, 80-degree weather into the southwestern parts of the Corn Belt, 85 to 90 southern plains states areas. And you can see then a little rippling in the northern branch of the jet, something coming out of the Canadian Prairie, moving through the Great Lakes region. That'll generate a couple of showers, maybe a thunderstorm early next week. The models have been trying to spin up a big, hairy low for some reason. That's why if you live by the models, you die by the models. We're not into that. It looks to be a very progressive weather pattern. And there may be a couple of showers into parts of Southern California, Sierra ranges with that system Tuesday of next week. But one thing to note from this, whenever you see two currents of air coming together, one out of the Canadian Prairie, one out of Southern California, the Southern Plains, that's heat there, that's cool air to the Canadian Prairie. Those are the mechanisms that make rain this time of the year and going into early summertime. And again, focused in through the eastern Corn Belt areas going forward here in the weeks to come. Surface map Friday through early next week. You can see that kind of windy weather system fast moving out of the Dakotas into the Plain States areas between Saturday and Sunday and early next week. And there's not much moisture to work with. It does bring down a little piece of some cool air Monday to Tuesday next week into the northern plains and upper Midwest, but not the degree of cold that we've had here so far. So there are milder days ahead. And just from this is a nice graphic that kind of foretells nicely what we're thinking. It's from the National Weather Service models, and we anticipate, some milder days west of the Mississippi in particular, south of the Ohio, temperatures closer to normal, and through the northern and eastern Corn Belt, warming soils, drying soils, generally speaking, more opportunistic for field work. West of the Mississippi, not much going on east, and particularly from about the I-80 and I-70 corridors on southward with either wet grounds or cold grounds. And it's a little overdone, but generally speaking, some degree of moisture, not to do any substantial improvement to dryness or drought, nor get in the way of field work. But something coming through in the 6 to 10 day outlook frame for the Plain States areas, and looking forward to the next couple of weeks, that shows to be a progressive weather pattern into the Corn Belt areas and down to the Southern Plains, with maybe a little pickup by the 15th to 20th of some rainfall. And you can see a little sliver of something back near the Canadian border in the Pacific Northwest. But more importantly, you can see that dry area in the western states, a better propensity for moisture as you get into the northern plains that point southeast to the Ohio Valley. And that basically, Sarah, is the thinking around here, that dryness and drought and all that stuff remains. We're, at least from this vantage point, in the western Corn Belt, the Plain States areas west of the Missouri in particular, where it's already a tough situation. And I think with time, it's just going to be more and more, maybe not the degree of what we saw the past week and 10 days in the southern Corn Belt, but generally a wetter trend in those eastern Corn Belt areas. So again, there'll be more advanced west. Not much going on east with time. At least west will take the lead. And as you get into the Plain States, I think it's just more and more. If we get into here mid to late April, beginning part of May, it's tough to get organized wet weather in the Plain States. It's a Mediterranean type climate for folks who are accustomed to that. Means these hit and miss pop-up thunderstorm chances, more heat, more dry time than anything. So that will be the epicenter of problems going forward for some of those livestock areas too, with haying supplies and all that, certainly needing to be watched out for in the days and weeks, if not next couple of months to come.
Lots to watch.
Even in a quiet day's worth of weather, there's just a sheet of everything going on here to be talking about. So, it's going to keep the weather guy on his toes per usual.
Per usual, exactly. Well, we'll check back in with you on Friday, Greg. We appreciate your time here today, and we appreciate all of you joining us as well.